Hello everyone, welcome back. Thank you for joining us as we are live from the Batcave. My name is Nate and today I'm being joined by my co-host
Joel. Hey everybody, how you doing?
How are you doing, bro? How are you doing today?
I'm doing alright. I'm doing okay. I'm excited that we're pumping out the content this week.
So am I. I feel like we have some lots of cool things in this episode.
Yeah.
We have a watch of the week, which is later on in the podcast on Bloodshot, so make sure to stay tuned for that. But right now, Joel, what is the word on the web?
Okay, so the word on the web is we have a lot of words on the web this week. The one I'm most excited for, though, is there has been rumoured for a long time that there's been a Space Jam sequel coming out. Did you ever see the original Space Jam, Nate?
Is that the Looney Tunes animated kind of basketball?
It is indeed.
Yeah, bro.
With Michael Jordan. They're making a new one with LeBron James, and we're getting that as a sequel. So, we've just got a new logo for that, so that's why I'm bringing that up, because it's been rumored for a long time.
What I'd be interested to see is how they go about the animation this time, because obviously when they used to do the kind of what was it called, like the Looney Tunes back in action and things like that, or Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and they did that in, obviously they drew on top of the images and everything. They obviously the tech wasn't as good as we have it now. But how do you think they'd probably go with the same methods, or do you think they'd just use more modern methods to make that film?
I think they could do it in the Who Framed Roger Rabbit way, in the original Space Jam way, but I think now there's a lot more like stuff you can do with 3D tracking and stuff like that. I think that's probably the way they'll do it. They'll probably make 3D models that look like 2D animation. And then,
well, that's another question then. Do you think they'll still do it as if it's 2D animation, or do you think they'll have like 3D models in the worlds?
I think they'll still do it as if it looks as though it's 2D animation. Because otherwise it takes away from the charm, right?
Yeah.
And then they'll use 3D models for most of it, and then they'll use a little bit of 2D animation over the top of certain things and the 3D models. To give life to it. And I think it'll work well that way.
I mean, I'm definitely intrigued, because when did Space Jam come out? When was that?
Oh, the original Space Jam, years ago. The original Space Jam was 1996.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
so this is a long
let's not
time
complain
coming.
about it. Let's. When's it set to release, or at least start production? Do you know?
So it was supposed to be released 2021, July 16th.
Oh, okay. But I'm assuming
that's going to be pushed back again, yeah. But we're not sure.
Okay.
It had some good names attached to it, though. It's supposed to be directed by Malcolm Lee, and the music was supposed to have been composed by Hans Zimmer and Chris Bowers.
Yo, okay. That's
really good names.
Yeah,
really
good
names
Jam.
attached. Yeah, I know. It's called Space Jam: A New Legacy.
Do you think it's gonna be like something new, or do you think it's gonna be fan service to the max?
I'm hoping for fan service, if I'm honest. But I don't know, because Malcolm Lee's a weird director for me, because it's not that I hate everything he's ever done, but he directed movies such as like Scary Movie 5.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a very specific type of comedy that he does. He also directed The Barbershop: The Next Cut, which is one of the Barbershop sequels, but it's like one of the newest ones, one that came out in 2016. And Girls Trip, if you ever saw that, which had Queen Latifah and Tiffany Haddish in it. So
I've never seen that.
So these are comedy films that would sometimes not do well at the box office, maybe, but also they have a very specific style to them. He is the cousin of Spike Lee, so
oh
yeah. I think though it looks good. It looks like it's in the right hands. For me, Space Jam sequel, Malcolm Lee, I'm perfectly happy for them to do it. I wasn't expecting J.J. Abrams to take it on. You know what I mean?
No. Well, J.J. Abrams taking on that film would be crazy. But do you want to know what else is very, very insane?
Go on, tell me.
I seriously can't. So, segue. Tom Cruise is teaming with Elon Musk to film a movie entirely in space.
No way.
And it's gonna be SpaceX, obviously Elon Musk's company, along with NASA. They're gonna be involved. And the only confirmations we have is that it's not going to be an MI film. It's not going to be Mission Impossible, and there's currently no studio involved. But he and Elon Musk are planning to shoot a movie entirely in space.
That's crazy. How have I not heard about this?
It's all I read it on. It was like an article that I think it was. Ooh, I can't think of what site I read it on, but I did some more research into it. And it is happening,
right?
And quite frankly, Tom Cruise, yeah, it's easy for him to go to space. He'll do whatever he likes. But if you need to film a movie in space, you need the crew. You need the director.
Yeah.
You need the cinematographers. You need to take people to space for an extended amount of time. And then if you're done and you go back to Earth, if you need a reshoot...
Well, apparently, really if the rumours of Tom Cruise are right, he's willing to make a Mission Impossible film with a selfie stick and a bunch of ropes. So, you know, who knows? I think that's a super cool idea, but what are they gonna do, right? Because the vacuum of space is like
this is what I'm thinking. See, I feel like, and I know Tom Cruise likes to go all out, so I'm not trying to diss him or anything, but I definitely think it'll be a case of majority of it is in space, but some is because obviously, like, if they need to reshoot but they're back on Earth, they can't just go back to space.
Yeah, no, probably not.
Exactly. Or like maybe, because I mean, if Elon Musk's involved and SpaceX, I mean NASA's involved, let alone SpaceX. But again, like Elon Musk has complete control over SpaceX, so he can do what he likes.
Yeah, it's
the fact that NASA's involved. But then again, no studio is involved yet. So what studio is gonna send their crew, their like people up to space? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's just, even as much as Elon and Tom Cruise would want to do that, then, you know, you can't, unless you just send them two up there with a camera, and then it, like there's like a found footage film. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a vlog from space.
I think it's an interesting prospect, but what's the story, right? It's cool having these things, but I worry for stuff like films like, what is it? Was it 1917? Was that the film?
That's the war film. That's all one shot.
Yeah, well,
you know,
it's all one shot, and
like
it's like, this is the thing that they're using to get you into the cinemas. And there's like, there's these certain things about it. Or this film is all one shot, or this film was filmed.
Can I just say
in
though,
but
that film was amazing. But I completely understand what you mean. Like, it's definitely going to be like, watch this film. It was filmed in actual outer space.
Yeah, right. And it's like, I would have enjoyed 1917 a lot more if I didn't know it was one shot before going into it. And like, the only reason I did go into it was because of people telling me
it was one shot.
Yeah, it was.
But that's the thing. I don't think I would have seen it if it went for that, because I saw Dunkirk, and I'm sorry, but that bored the ever living crap out of me.
Yeah,
like no disrespect to those films or nothing, because again, like, based off completely true events.
No,
but personally,
exactly.
I sat through like a pretty much 3-hour long war film that I couldn't really enjoy.
No, I completely understand, and it's certain films like that that'll get the audience in, but it's on a gimmick, and I just hope that they tell a good story whilst using that gimmick, because I think that's the most important thing. If you're going to use these sort of type of things to put people into theatre seats, tell a good story while you're there. Talking talking of good stories that could be told in space, are they going to make it sci-fi?
Exactly. What's that film that Sandra Bullock's in?
Gravity?
Yeah, like I've never seen that. I'd like to, but I've never seen that. But isn't that a very straightforward plot? Isn't she just...
Yeah, she's like stuck out
That's
there.
what I've heard. Yeah, and it's like they can easily do a film in space, but is it going to be like Star Wars? Is it going to be like Mission Impossible? Do you know what I mean? You gotta think, yeah, we can get in space, but say no, if the craft, the spacecraft they get up there isn't like that big.
Yeah.
What can they do? Because with VFX, you can make someone like fly on a jetpack through space. Tom Cruise can't do that.
No,
if he's
exactly.
actually in space, he can have a tether connected to his ship, like.
And like
But
they say,
he
this is
can't.
being filmed in space, right? But like, there's certain stuff that you have to do on a green screen anyway. So are they going to film that green screen stuff in space? Like, it's
just Tom Cruise, Elon Musk. They have a DSLR and a pop-up green screen, and they just go to space.
Well, maybe they tick it to 60 frames per second, right? So we can do like cool slow motion shots, and then like they're in space, so there's zero gravity, so they don't need like wires and stuff to do stunts, and they just pop them in front of a green screen.
Imagine it's a film that takes place on Earth, but they just film it in space.
Yeah,
like it doesn't take place in space; they just filmed it there for the lols.
Yeah, that's interesting. If I thought, this is going to be all in space, and went into the theatre and it was a completely grounded story about a man who was trapped in his house or something, I'd be like,
but he can float.
Yeah, but he can float or something.
I mean?
I'd be like, wow, okay, cool. But yeah, it's it is one of those things that's like you're pulling me in. But
yeah.
But like, yeah, please do tell a story while you're there, because of course I'm gonna see it. A little bit of sad news that I want to bring up, because it's not a big news topic I want to get into, but I just want to give my respects and pay my respects to Sam Lloyd. Sam Lloyd passed away,
and I'm not sure if you know who this is, but he was in Scrubs.
And I'm a big fan of Scrubs. So he's passed away, and I just want to send respect out to his family, and I just thank him for all the stuff that he gave to us. He was a very, very funny guy. He was part of a trio of singers that I still listen to their covers to this day, and they all featured on Scrubs as well. So yeah, just a bit of somber news, but my respect goes out to the family, and I'm hoping you guys are okay when you get through this. But Sam Lloyd passed away. That was a biggie. That was a big deal.
I mean, yeah, I've never really watched Scrubs. I have heard very good things about it, and I think I've been present in a room whilst it's on, and it was definitely one of those. This is interesting. I'll just watch it. I'll I got drawn to it, but I've never really watched it. But no, all respect goes out.
Yeah. So yeah, but that's a bit of somber news. He wasn't just in Scrubs. He was also like in Seinfeld and Modern Family, which are things like that people would know him for. But Scrubs was what I knew him for. As much as I do like Jerry Seinfeld as a comedian, I never really watched Seinfeld. So yeah, it was one of the funniest actors I've had the pleasure to watch on screen. So that's sad. A bit of more light-hearted thing. My favourite Disney film is the next to get adapted. Do you know what's getting adapted next into live action?
You're not talking about Mulan, are you?
No, Mulan has already been adapted. The next one to be adapted is Hercules.
Oh, I have.
Bless
and I've been hearing
my
lots of
soul.
people. Well, is it really blessing your soul? Because I've heard lots of Logan Paul rumours, and I'm not a fan of that.
What, for Hercules?
Yeah, bro.
Oh, I hope not. I very much
because
hope not.
he granted, no disrespect to the man, because he is in good shape, but at the same time, no.
Yeah, I've heard other rumours such as Chris Pratt, so I don't think they would. I don't think they would do that just because of the controversial past that Logan Paul has had. But what we do know at the moment is Avengers Endgame and Infinity War filmmakers Joe and Anthony Russo are set to produce the film.
Bro.
Now that's cool.
New levels of excitement now.
Yeah, so I would, because I hate the Disney remakes, right? Aladdin wasn't too bad. I quite enjoyed Aladdin, but
I enjoyed Aladdin.
But the fact that there's no singing in Mulan, and it is awful. I hate it every time.
Haven't they with Mulan? Didn't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe she had some form of animal sidekick.
She had a dragon.
They've now taken out, but they've now not put that in the film to make it more real.
Yeah, so she doesn't have a dragon companion anymore. I think his name's Wushu.
Well, there's a video on YouTube by a good man I know called Joey Lever, and he basically ranted about Disney remakes.
Yeah.
The one hand was that he loved them, the other hand was that there's some which were pretty bad. One being the fact that they're trying to make it that realistic, when in reality, if you go to a Disney film, you don't want realism, you want to go to some like fantasy world.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, you don't watch Peter Pan for realism. If you did, you'd just be looking at dead bodies. I'm not being funny, they are dead.
Yes.
You know, like they've gone to heaven, that's what Neverland is.
Yeah. There were so many shows that have tried to adapt that. I think there's like one called Pan, or it's something specific, but it's like it's way before Peter Pan gets there, and it's like what Neverland was like before he got there. I think it's interesting to explore, but I don't like the gritty remakes of stuff.
Yeah, well, it's not even that I don't enjoy them. I just don't want them to lose. Like, because if like Mulan had a dragon that was like extremely badass,
yeah,
but like even if it wasn't as magical as they were, but they still had like a really cool dragon, or this. Do you know what I mean? Like, it'd still make sense.
Yeah.
But the fact that like, because there's so many films, because Mulan isn't that based off of an actual, or maybe not an actual, but like a story of this like fighter, or I'm not too sure on the backstory, but I know that there's basically films based off of the main character of Mulan.
Right. Well, Mulan's a story about a girl who pretends to be a guy in order to join the army.
Right.
And in Disney terms, it's a really good Disney movie, but it's got some of the best songs from Disney in it, and they've taken all the music out of it, and yeah, they've taken the dragon out of it. I'm trying to think of the dragon's name. I think it is Wushu. But they've taken the dragon out of it. They've taken all the fantasy elements. So now it's literally just about a girl who goes to war dressed as a man.
Yeah.
And like, that's not what's good about Disney films, right? It's not their premise. It's what we get out of it. It's the songs, it's the singing, it's the dancing, it's entertainment. I think they're just ripping everything that was good about Mulan out of it.
Well, the thing is for me as well, it's not that it annoys me, because, for example, I might get hate for this, but I saw the live action Lion King and the live action Aladdin before I watched the animated ones, and I still haven't seen the animated Aladdin. Not because I don't want to, but just as a kid, I was never shown them. Right. And then, obviously, just newly out came Aladdin and the Lion King. And it was something to see in the cinema, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I have seen the original Lion King now. I still haven't seen the original Aladdin. But even though I've been told that things have definitely been changed in the new Aladdin, it has better reviews than what Mulan is doing, which is just taking all the original elements. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, this is the thing, right? So there was comedic relief in the form of the dragon. It's Mushu, not Wushu. I just remembered it's Mushu. He's played by Eddie Murphy, right? And as we can see from Eddie Murphy's other animated roles, like Donkey, he's always playing some sort of comic relief.
Good comic relief as well.
Yeah, good comic relief. And that's the sort of thing of like, yeah, you've just taken a complete character out of there, and he didn't really do much. Fair enough, but it doesn't make sense to me. But this is, that's Milan. This is what we're talking about, is Hercules. And I think there's no way they take the magical elements out of Hercules, right? He's the son of a god.
Well, you just got to think to yourself, right? Who did put the glad in Gladiator?
Hercules, praise be. I said. Yeah, I know. I love Hercules. It's probably my favorite Disney film. And that's a broad statement because I love The Hunchback of Notre Dame as well.
But hey, listen, just think, like, let's say you got Aladdin and you got Hercules. If one of those two could have things taken away to make more realistic, it'd be Aladdin, because like you can easily take that genie out.
Could you?
But, I mean, you couldn't. You couldn't. But Disney would. You know, if they wanted it to make it realistic.
I don't know.
They're doing with Milan.
I don't know if you could take the genie out of Aladdin, because that's the proper.
No,
thing.
No, that's what I'm saying. You can't. But at Disney, that Disney would be like, right, we want to make this realistic. Genie's unreal.
Right.
Let's say just, do you know what I mean? Stuff happens. Whatever.
Yeah, he meets a rich guy, and the rich guy can make every dream come true. Yeah, I get you.
But they didn't. So hopefully Hercules gets.
Yeah, they can't be doing that with Hercules. Like, Hercules has a flying horse. He's trained by like a mini Minotaur. Like, what's the Danny DeVito's character who used to train Achilles? Yeah, it's a bit silly that they would take sort of fantasy elements out of this. But I'm glad. I think this is their attempt to correct from Milan.
Yeah, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. You got any more news?
So, recent news that has intrigued me very much. So we talked about Blade and who could direct Blade in the last episode.
Yeah.
Recent news, the Bad Boys for Life directors, and I hope I don't butcher these names, Bilal Fala and Adil El Arbi, want to helm Deadpool and Blade in the MCU, or would like to helm Deadpool and Blade.
Right, okay. Interesting.
Now, I thought this was very interesting because obviously we talked about you think that Edgar Wright could do a good job with Blade.
Yeah, and I definitely
what do you think about this?
Do a good job with Deadpool.
Deadpool. Okay, like, going off of last episode as well then, obviously I wasn't too keen on your choices of Edgar Wright for Blade, but for Deadpool, I would cast Edgar Wright in a heartbeat for Blade. Not for Blade, for Deadpool, for the director. Yeah.
I would say so as well. I would. Yeah, he's probably more appropriate for Deadpool than he is for Blade. I think it was a niche pick for Blade. I don't not agree with myself. I think I would still do it, but it's a risk rather than a thing that's like, oh yeah, this is quite obvious that this director should do it. I think it's a risk that they would take Edgar Wright for Blade.
Have you seen Bad Boys for Life?
I've not. I've seen Bad Boys and Bad Boys 2, and I'm not sure if it's the same director.
Would you like me to check? I haven't seen any of them, but I've heard that there's a very specific tone to the films.
Yeah. You got like Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, right? And I think they're a great comedic duo. Anyone Martin goes with is really good. But Will Smith,
I can confirm
in his own right.
Bad Boys 1 and 2 was directed by Michael Bay.
Oh, so it was. I remember that now. That's something that I do remember.
I'm not sure what the status is on Bad Boys for Life and the directorial.
Yeah.
You know. It got a 77% on Rotten Tomatoes and it got a 6.7 out of 10 on IMDb.
I think stats like that sometimes are just, sometimes they can be false. Like, like for example, I'm a massive fan of comedy, and Dave Chappelle had one of his specials come out recently, and it had 100% audience score and a 0% Rotten Tomato score. So the critic, like 6 or 12 or however many critics saw it, didn't like it for varying reasons of, I don't know, offensiveness or whatever. Comedy is dead, blah, blah, blah. But 100% of the audience that watched it loved it.
But, and this is a broad statement, right? But just because you're offended doesn't mean you're right.
Yeah.
That's not to say go offending everyone under the sun. Don't.
No,
but
okay, be polite as you can in most situations if you can manage to be polite. But, you can't give up your views because it may offend someone. It's what you believe. And especially not jokes. Jokes are always jokes. And that's,
literally,
that's the thing.
Coming from Ricky Gervais, the guy who has hosted the Golden Globes 5 times, and every time I said, it's my last time, so I'll say what I want.
Yeah.
There's so many people that get offended by him.
Yeah, of course. He has like Twitter
But that
battles.
doesn't matter to him, because he finds it funny.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's one person finding something funny and everyone like being like, that's not funny. But then there's someone making a joke that's slightly crude.
Yes.
Or like, I wouldn't, you know what I mean? And then there's some people who are like,
I've made some off-colour jokes, and I always make jokes that are, somewhat pushing the boundaries. But I think that's what makes jokes funny, is that if you're not expecting it, then it's the element of surprise, and who expects crassness, who expects
there's
vulgarity.
also things like you could make a joke about someone, let's say, with a disability, and then someone with that disability would find it hilarious, but then somebody who doesn't have that ability would be offended by it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you can't say stuff like that.
Getting
but then
offended on someone else's
ability,
behalf, it really annoys me.
Especially when the behalf
finds
it hilarious.
Yeah, he's fine with it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's all down to just who, especially with Deadpool. I feel like even the Fox films have held back with Deadpool.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Like, audience scores, like, although we did do that little tangent on comedy, audience scores are mainly the way to go. How much of the audience likes it, and if it's more than 65%, if it's in the thing, it's probably going to be quite enjoyable. You know what I mean? Less than 50, then you're taking your risks with it. But I don't think the critic scores or any of the Rotten Tomato scores, I don't think anything like that is credible anymore. Critics, especially people like the ones on Warner Brothers Rotten Tomatoes, are one biased towards Warner Brothers movies, and second of all, they have an agenda. They're trying to be offended on someone's behalf when we're critiquing things, and they always have an agenda behind their reviews, and I don't think that's really fair. Which is why when we do our watch of the week, we do it from a standpoint of filmmakers. So we analyse the things in the film that we think are good and or bad choices made by the director or the teams around making the film.
Well, here's something worth noting. The other movies that Bilal Fallah and Adil Arbi have made is Bad Boys for Life, a film called Black, a film called Gangster, Image, Broders, Hashtag, and Patient Zero. All films I've never heard of.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's one of those, because you have there's like, I think his name's Dean Israelite. Now, he's done a lot of small things, but he did the Power Rangers reboot, but he also did Project Almanac. And I don't know what the status is on Project Almanac as being a well-known film, but I personally, I enjoyed that film. I mean, it wasn't fantastic, but I enjoyed it. And like with Power Rangers as well, I enjoyed that. Right. But again, like I haven't heard of him directing something since Power Rangers. Like I'm worried that if these two directors were to take on Deadpool or Blade, then if they didn't do a great job, then maybe like that would rot the franchise. That'd rot they'd be like, oh, that Deadpool film's bad. We shouldn't make another one of them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it could go the completely opposite way, and then these two guys could become the new Joe and Anthony. Like, so it's.
I get what you mean. Yeah, it's a risk, definitely. That's the thing. Like certain directors, you take risks with. Yeah, I think that's interesting. That's definitely interesting. I think what they're not doing over at the CW is taking too many risks. I think their shows are making enough money to the point where they keep diversifying. And the new season trailer for DC's Stargirl just came out. Have you seen this?
Bro, that is a fire trailer. It is a fire trailer.
Yeah, I'm really interested in it. I love the Injustice League that they've sort of got. Really, really cool. So it's not Injustice League, sorry, it's Injustice Society, because we're in
there's a Justice Society and an Injustice Society.
So we're in the universe obviously we're in the CW's multiverse. So this is Stargirl. She doesn't
technically Earth 2 as well. Now the old Earths collided.
So she isn't on the Flash's Earth, and this is a Earth where we never got a Justice League. And we never got a new, team based around the Flash and Black Canary or White Canary. But we got
there is a Flash.
There is a Flash, but instead we got a Golden Age Justice Society of America. So we've got like Jay Garrick type Flash, and they are no longer around because of the Injustice Society. Including Starman. Now, Starman has really weird comic iterations, but in most of them, he's not around anymore. And there is a new person that is helping the city, which is either Starman's relative, or brother, son, or Stargirl. And we've got this TV show with Stargirl, and it's really cool because we've got this Injustice Society. So they're not Justice League villains, they're Injustice Society villains. So we've got villains like Brainwave, like quite unheard of, Dragon King, Wizard, Sportsmaster, Icicle. But that doesn't mean we don't have anyone who, we can recognise, because we've got Tigress. And the person that I'm personally really excited for is we've got Solomon Grundy. And Solomon Grundy is full CG. They've definitely put some budget into that.
Well, this is the thing, especially with budget, because I do not want to compare this to Marvel at all. But if we were to, it feels like Captain Marvel with the life of Peter Parker done right.
Yeah.
It looks like Captain Marvel done right, but Captain Marvel isn't this, god that she is. She's got the life of Peter Parker where she's got these amazing powers, but she's, like, by no means trained and, like, that powerful to that experience to use them. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
And I really...
I super enjoyed the trailer. I'm pretty sure from other stuff I've read about Stargirl that her mentor is either like her stepdad or something, but it's Starman's best friend. And obviously Starman isn't around anymore. So Starman is played by Joel McHale, by the way, who is a really funny comedian, but also I love him in Community. He is such a cool pick for a superhero. And the fact that he's not around anymore is good for him, obviously. But he's in this, and then you've got this character who is supposed to be supporting Stargirl. But the character, I think, is the mech that supports Starman. Is like, I think the mentor she has is a guy who builds a mech to like help Starman. So he might get meched up, and I'm pretty sure it's the mech we saw in the DC crossover. So
I feel like it is.
Yeah, so the guy we saw at the start of that trailer in the car, do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so him, I'm pretty sure he has a giant mech. So there's budget here. There's definite budget here.
Someone who I'm looking forward to seeing and just what they do with him is Dragon King.
Yeah.
Because do you think they'll kind of... Do you think it'll be the... I don't know whether I should say the version, because I don't know this much about the character. I don't know whether there's been multiple versions. But, the Black Dragon Society?
Yes, I do.
Do you think there'll be any kind of relation to that? Do you think they'll ever... Do you reckon that's a part of his backstory, or do you think this is a lot... Because that was World War II, the Black Dragon Society.
So he's supposed to be Dragon King. He's supposed to have ties to the war, like the Justice Society has. But I don't get it, because this is in modern day, right?
Yeah.
So, like... how much of it they're supposed to be doing, because he joins the Black Dragon Society when World War II begins.
Yeah.
And to me, it just feels like this has to be his son, right?
Well, I was going to say either that or they pull a Rip Hunter and just time machine. Like,
yeah, or Earth 2 is an Earth where World War II either happened later.
Well, do we know that this is modern day? Because we don't.
We do.
Don't see
we do know that
a
it's
mobile
modern
phone
day
or anything,
because of a different trailer that I've seen.
Why is that confirmed in a different trailer?
I'm pretty sure I've seen like either a mobile phone or like a bank or something like that in it.
Well, they didn't have banks in World War, did they?
Well, no, but like a modern bank, you know what I mean? Like an ATM.
Yeah. Yeah, I got you. That's
I can't quite put my finger on it though, so you might be right. Maybe it's not in modern day. I can't think. But either way, they said names at the start of this trailer that were in the Justice Society, like Dr. Fate and the Flash. So we might get flashbacks back to a different version of a Flash. Who that could be played, we don't know.
This is what I'm looking forward to, because it's the Jay Garrick helmet, and they have like a photograph, and Flash is in the middle, and it looks like Jay Garrick, but it's not the kind of updated costume that John Wesley Shipp had, but it's just it's like a lot more comic accurate. But what I'm thinking is, are they gonna go the route of he looks like the Jay Garrick Flash, but they say like, oh, his name was Wally West, or
right.
Do you get what I mean?
Yeah,
or
could do.
Maybe like Bart. I mean, it looks off first glance, Jay Garrick.
Yeah,
it's the helmet as well. But again, they could do so many things with this. Just
how
because
traditional
of what
they're
we've already
doing
seen
with this Justice Society as well, because we've already seen a guy who in this trailer I don't recognize him at all unless he's like Hourman. I think his name's Hourman. That's who the costume looked like to me. But it's super exciting, and that's a show I'm really excited for. Arrow's finishing, so we've got like the end of an era.
Arrow's finished.
Yeah, so it's finished. We've got the end of an era there, and then these new shows are popping up. I'm really excited for stuff that CW's about to give us. Like, I'm pretty sure there was talks about a new Superman TV show with Tyler Hoechlin's Superman.
I've always said this, but DC movies that are give or take, because Aquaman I enjoyed, Shazam was great, Wonder Woman was I enjoyed that. There's been flaws everywhere, but the shows they've just nailed.
Yeah,
and there's been the off season, and there's been apparently
there's...
Supergirl season 2 wasn't great, or maybe season 1, and the Flash season what was it, season 3? It wasn't a good show for people, or I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I'm not too sure either.
But no, season 5 people didn't like because of Nora.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah,
they're just doing some great things. Like they used, how they're going to use the Flash movie to reset the DCEU. Like they used Crisis to be like, okay, we are going to make our TV shows banging.
Yeah,
we're going to make our TV shows amazing.
The fact that they gave us like, Christopher Reeve Superman, basically.
Yeah.
That was so cool. That was the coolest part of Crisis for me.
What I loved as well is that they made him Kingdom Come Superman, but then right to the end, once they reset everything, he was back with his yellow emblem. He was
back
Superman
in the Christopher Reeves type suit, which I was super impressed by. Is there any news that you want to get off your chest? Because I'm about to wrap up the last piece of news before we move on to the what we watched this week. Which, oh boy.
Well, we'll just throw it in. We don't have to discuss much. But Taika Waititi to direct the new Star Wars movie, confirmed by George Lucas officially.
Right.
Obviously, he worked on The Mandalorian, which I still haven't seen. But again, obviously, amazingly reviewed, and you love it.
Yes, I do. I do love The Mandalorian.
So what do we think? Because Taika Waititi saved the Thor franchise, but it also comicalized the Thor franchise.
Yeah, and I like his stuff comically.
Would that work for Star Wars, do you think?
Would it work for Star Wars? I think...
Granted, there's been a few funny moments, but you can't... Can you really feel like Thor Ragnarok, but as a Star Wars film?
Yeah, he does get really weird with stuff. But...
Which, again, weird's not bad, but it's like... I'm not trying to say I don't want a funny Star Wars film, but it will be very... Like, I know the Skywalker saga's over, right, but it will be very different to the others.
Well, I mean, I don't think we've seen things from him like everything. You know what I mean? I think he's probably got a lot of range. If there was any filmmaker that I would say, hey, there's a kooky universe out there where, you know, a cantina lives where there's a lot of aliens in, and, you know, the dark side, the good side, the Force, the Jedis, and all of that sort of stuff live in. There's a weird story to tell there, right? There's a story that he could tell in that universe. But it's whether they're giving him the start of a big franchise or whether they're just letting him tell a story in that universe.
Exactly, because again, it's not going to be in the Skywalker saga, but I don't want a new Star Wars film if it's just going to be like, oh, by the way, this is brand new, but C-3PO's still here, and this is still referenced, and do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want... Because, bit niche to reference, but Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, brand new thing, wasn't the Zordon era, but they had the Astro Megaship, they had Alpha 5, they had... Do you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't different. Like, it was, but it wasn't... I wouldn't call it the start of a new era.
No.
Because of how much continued on.
I wouldn't say it was a new era either. To me,
it's not, because like Zordon died in space, therefore it can't be Zordon era. But at the same time, a lot followed on.
Yeah.
Even the Psycho Rangers, they became exclusively Lost Galaxy Rangers at that enemies at that point.
No, I completely understand that. But anyway, I think that's enough for the news. I'm desperate to talk about what we watched this week. Don't say it like that. So this week, as we announced last week, or it wasn't even last week, was it? It was a couple of days ago for them. We were going to watch Bloodshot. We have now watched Bloodshot.
We have.
The Valiant Comics hero Bloodshot. Now, first
of all, let's just point out that the film was, if anything, enjoyable.
Yeah. Definitely had entertaining points. And value.
Yes.
Well, that's the thing, right? Okay, so I think we just do spoilers all the way through for this film. Normally, I would say we'll do our reviews without the spoilers, and then we'll jump into it. But I think this film, we need a full deep dive on it, because we need to go through everything. First things first. It had moments where it was good. But the biggest thing, he's Bloodshot for 2 minutes in this film.
And by Bloodshot, we mean full-on red eyes, pale skin.
Yeah, like he has the powers of Bloodshot a lot through this film. But, like, he's not got the look that we've been advertised.
Every poster had him looking pale with red eyes. And also, there were shots in the trailer of him being grey in spots in scenes that he wasn't. Mm-hmm. One being when he and the guy with the robotic legs and like the extra arms, he they're falling down like the elevator shaft down the building, and in the trailer he's grey, and in the film he's not.
Yeah.
And I calculated it, and it's just over 2 minutes that he is full-on Bloodshot. That's it.
That's ridiculous. Like, we were advertised a lot of Bloodshot.
It was not only that as well, but even though it was bad how little he looked like Bloodshot, but also it was so far toward the end of the film. It was like an hour and 40 minutes in. I think it was like an hour and 35, roughly. Like, that was beyond.
Yeah, I think that was ridiculous because... Well, let's just go into the film, right? Because that's just us from, like, being comic book fans. Like,
yeah.
As filmmakers, let's break this down. Okay. The start of the film. Although it's revealed later on that
it's like a CG.
Yeah, that it's a CG world
simulation.
And it's a simulation. The filmmaking had this weird, like, tint to it. We started
it was
off...
colour graded.
Yeah.
With a lot of yellow.
Yeah, we started off with the white balance in the yellows, and with a sort of lookup table, a lot of yellows, and everything was coloured really warm, but really warm. Like things that should look cold, like a white tank top, looked yellow.
But not even that. It didn't even look warm, because warm is a mix of yellows and reds and oranges, whereas it looked yellow.
Yeah, it just looked yellow. So I mean, that was the first thing. But then that's revealed later on that that's a bit of a CG thing. But...
Talking about CG as well, it was evident that they put their budget into one specific bit of... Because there's this one guy, there's the main... Well, the quote-unquote main guy who, like, supposedly created this technology, and he has a robotic arm, and there's this other guy who has robotic legs, and there's shots of those arms and those legs which look really good. Then there's other shots where you can just tell that they've just been tracked on and not animated.
Yeah.
And it's just clear that they've spent money on specific types of shots. Like, for example, I think something that was definitely spent money on was, you know, when they're in, like, the tunnel.
Yeah.
And he gets shot in the face and, like, all the particles come off. And also when he's in, like, that final fight and he's absorbing all the particles. Like, you can tell that's where the money went. And also on the sets. They were very elaborate.
Yeah, I've got to agree with that. Like, it was very much a film where they utilised real sets. And the biggest CG elements of it were either poorly done or well done, but at the end of the film.
Yeah. And especially going off of sets, there's this one scene where he's in this void world, and they make it look pretty decent, but then there's a shot where it pans out and it shows the world being built around him, and even that doesn't look that bad, because it looks like how, if, for example, a CG artist would show a before and after type thing, but the way the camera zooms out of them and into that world, it was so janky.
Yeah. And we...
It looked like they did a zoom out without no kind of motion blur, no type of stabilization. It was just, we'll just make them smaller as the CG world gets bigger.
Yeah. And I thought to myself as well, at the start of the film, like, there would be points where people would jump off and be like, well, this film's about to be like a B movie or something. And one of them was at the start of the film, after we find out that he's woken up after he's died, and he doesn't know that it's a simulation, that him dying, he doesn't know that's a simulation yet. We zoom out of the building that he's on. The building doesn't have texture. It's like really shiny.
Like, they've made it out as if... Because a context for story now, this guy's basically... he keeps getting programmed into his head that some man has killed his girlfriend or wife. But that hasn't happened. What has happened is the scientists who created the things that he's pretty much made of, they keep programming into his head that the same scene over and over again, but with a different guy killing his wife.
Yeah.
And that different man each time was one of, like, the 9 or so scientists, or like 6 scientists that developed the tech. and
so it's the one scientist, the guy with the robot arm, trying to kill all the other peers that made the tech that makes Bloodshot.
yeah, so he can claim it for himself.
Mhm.
So bottom line, everyone on what we think is the good team are basically VFX artists, and the filmmakers make it out to be that these characters are better VFX artists than the ones working on the film.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they did some solid jobs.
Yeah, like the stuff where they're like building the surroundings, that looks really, really good. But then the actual stuff in the real world, like the buildings that they've CG'd in, are awful. And it's I don't know what it is, whether it's like they ran out of budget and they filmed everything out of order, or whether they just saved the budget for the end. But in doing that, are you not losing half your audience half the way through? Or are they thinking, well, they've already bought the ticket?
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I was thinking, because when we get, for example, close-ups on the mechanical legs or the mechanical arm, or even close-ups of when Bloodshot is kind of, oh well, I won't call him Bloodshot, when Ray is kind of regenerating his cells, it looks really good. But then there's instances where they'll have, like I said, there was like the shot where he's being chased by the guy with the robotic legs.
Yeah.
And it was like there was motion blur added, but it wasn't going in the right direction.
Right.
He was going one way and the motion blur was going in the opposite way that they should have been.
And like at one point you could tell sometimes how the legs were done. Because it looked as if he'd got green screen legs like they did
like
in Pan's
socks.
Labyrinth.
Yeah.
Like they did with Pan's Labyrinth. He had like green screen legs that they just keyed out, and then they'd replace them with these new robotic legs, and then they just film him running down a hallway and then sped it up so he seemed faster. And it was like,
but
this is so rogue.
If he was faster, he'd be moving faster, but his arms and legs would still be consistent.
Yeah.
Whereas he looks like he should be running faster, but that's because of strength and not speed.
Yeah.
Whereas he looked like the Flash, just his arms and legs just going wild.
Yeah, it was a menagerie of sort of bad things, but we're sort of taking this out of order. I think what we need to do straight away is, apart from just saying all the bad things about this film, which by the way, guys, we'll have a lot more time for, is just go through the story, right? Because I think the story was probably the best element of it.
The story was very good, especially the way they reveal what the story is. Because like you kind of think you know, then they reveal it and you're like, oh,
yeah,
damn.
Yeah. And I think...
Okay, so that's what we're doing.
I think what they've done here, and this is just like my opinion, so, you know, don't take this as gospel, is they've taken a really good sci-fi plot, given that sci-fi plot to a Valiant comic character in order to make it a comic book film.
They've put a known name to it.
Yeah, exactly, to get people into it. Given, you know, made it a comic book film, taken a really good sci-fi plot, mashed the two together, and then made a mediocre film, right? They made a bad film, or not even bad, I won't say it's bad, because there is redeeming qualities out of it, and to be honest, although I thought he was going to be, Vin Diesel wasn't the worst part of this film.
No,
he was
totally agree.
Yeah, he was alright in it. I would say most of the actors were, like, they had Guy Pearce in it, but...
No, legit, my favourite characters, Wigan and Katie. Just hands down, they were just great.
Yeah, yeah. But you're supposed to root for those, right? You're supposed to like those characters. I think...
But I like them more than Bloodshot.
Yeah, that's fair. I think what they did right was they did have a good story. Attaching it to a known name didn't really make it work any better. I think maybe those stories were compatible, maybe they weren't, but I don't think we should have seen the outcome. And they've taken a really good sci-fi plot and then made a really mediocre film with it, because, like, I like a lot of things about this film, apart from the filmmaking. Right?
Yeah.
It's like the choices that they made with the art style, the directorial stuff. Like, although it's a CG environment, it's supposed to be realistic for Bloodshot in his mind. And they weren't trying to make it unrealistic at the start. So, why all the yellows? and also why, as soon as he's out of those yellows and into this hostage situation, why is it a green tint, and then there's suddenly film grain where there was none before? And it's like sort of choices like that where they've quite clearly used, colour correction and stuff like that in a stylistic way. But it's like they didn't know that those scenes were going to come directly after each other. And it's such a sharp contrast. No. It's not a juxtaposition. It's not a stylistic sharp contrast. It's just jarring.
It's just different.
Yeah.
Something about the filmmaking as well. I'm not going to say this plot was like 101, but there was like 3 things in particular that me and Joel were like, that's going to happen, and did the exact way we thought would happen. So there was the one, just we're going to go inside this building and it's going to be a different colour, or like, he's going to, for example, when he woke back up, he's like, he's going to be blue. It's going to be blue tinted now after we come out of this kind of flashback time. And it was.
Yeah.
Another one was, I straight up said, I was like, before we even knew that these guys were bad, I was like, that man's going to die. The guy with the robotic hand is going to die. And then Joel said, these are the bad guys. These aren't the good guys, these are the bad guys.
I did, I called that. I called that so early on.
And to do that once, fair enough. We did that 3 times. And granted, like, the colour one wasn't that big. But, like, the fact that Guy Pearce's character was going to die, or the fact that these guys were going to be the villains, that's 2 things which were pretty big plots that we just assumed and guessed would happen just by what had gone on in the film.
Yeah, absolutely, and I don't think we should have been able to guess those things.
But again, it's that instance of great story, but because they've tried to merge it with this comic character, they didn't really know, they didn't understand how to tell it in a way of.
Yeah, they weren't. They
won't guess it.
They weren't gentle with it, were they? It was sort of brute force. Yeah. And we had
exactly.
We had an experience where it was sort of, you're watching this film and you've got a really cool concept, but what they've done with the concept is they've tried to tell us this story in a really forced way.
Yeah. Words out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Like, that is, if you needed to explain to someone to this film why it isn't as good as it could be, that's it. Because they knew what they wanted, but they couldn't execute it in a softer manner.
Yeah.
What did we should talk about some of the I'll say shots in general, but the shots with colour, because obviously there was some bad things about colour, but there was also some really cool things. One thing in particular, they used a lot of red, like, smoke grenades.
Oh yeah, the practical colour effects.
Yeah, and the part I liked the best was the first one was in the bridge, even though I wasn't a massive fan of that because it just seemed a bit too red.
Yeah.
But also at the end where Katie blows up the servers, they used the smoke grenades in there, and I really liked that.
The server scene for me was probably the best use of colour throughout the film. She had blinking lights on her when quite clearly there was some points where she wasn't in the same point in that room, so she wouldn't have had those blinking lights on her when it was being filmed, but they did because to give you the illusion. And I was like, this really works. So she had like blinking lights on her and stuff, and then when she threw the smoke grenades, those blinking lights faded, as they would because they're being covered by smoke.
Well, listen. The tunnel scene, they had the red flares and the blue lights, and they made a dark scene blue and red. However, the server scene, the room was like blue anyway, so they made a blue scene blue and red. They didn't make like a regular scene 2 different colours. They made a shot that was a room that was already one colour, and they blended that colour with another colour, as opposed to try and just make the entire place. Because the tunnel was like black, and because of the powder, it was kind of like a grey kind of fog.
Yeah.
And they had the blue lights, and they had the red smoke and the red flares.
Also, they used those flares
kind of a mix.
Very sparingly, right? When they were doing it practically. So they used the flares practically for a while, and then obviously it wasn't going to work for the entire scene. So they didn't use flares for the entire scene. They just put red lights in corners that you couldn't see and pointed them to the ceiling. But it was so obvious that they had done that, right? They put a red light behind the truck, and I was like, well, that's not the flare. That doesn't look the same. Why is the whole scene now just red? Because you've softboxed it red.
Remember when in that scene where basically we see, I forget his name, but he was who we thought was the guy who killed his wife. Obviously, we knew it wasn't. Yeah. It was like everyone. But he was in the back of a car and he was basically saying, we're going to die, we got to get out of here. And there's another guy in the front of the car and he's on FaceTime to this other guy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very red. And I said to you, I was like, I know there's red flares, but this entire, like, behind him is red as well. Like, the area behind him is red as well when the flare is in front of him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it didn't make sense.
And he was just...
Like, the direction of the light didn't make sense.
Which, again, like you said, I think it's down to the fact that they were like, right, we don't have these flares, so let's put lights everywhere to make it look like it.
Yeah.
But realistically, they were in places that the flare wouldn't
and
have.
they didn't flicker the same speed either. They didn't have, like, a flicker
they didn't.
at all. At some points, they just weren't flickering. And it was so obvious that it wasn't the flares, but, again... That's something that I put down to. I can't say that is. That's something that, you know, it was a budgetary requirement because you have people on set, right? And you could have had people on set with like reflectors or with just matte black sheets that could have gone over there and made those lights flicker, and they could have stood behind the van. You know what I mean? Or you could have had them not stand behind the van, and you could have keyed them out later. And it would have been nothing towards your budget, basically. And it's something that, like, realistically, the I don't know whether it's the director or the producer, they should have thought about these things when doing the plans, like the lighting plans and stuff.
It's something that I feel like they definitely went. They planned the scenes around the flares. Not around the light that the flares. They were like, we're going to have these flares. Okay, it's going to turn the scene red. Okay, let's get some red lights then. They didn't think, right, we want this scene to be red. Shall we use flares in order to do so? Instead, they did, we want flares. Now let's try and make that happen.
There's one thing I want to talk about, though, and it's really specific.
What? What's the specific thing?
And I know you're going to agree with me on this. Okay. The British accents.
Listen. There wasn't any British actors in the film.
No, none.
And it's not even as if they went, right, let's go to London. No, they were in like this. Just.
I think they did go to London once.
The end, wasn't it though?
I think it was when they got that guy that was the second target. The guy Wigan was working for. Right,
yes. Well, but that's the thing. That was until the end of the film. That's not till we meet Wigan.
Yeah.
But yeah, go on.
Just the accents, man.
I mean, Wigan, the actor. Wasn't he Canadian?
Yeah, he was. He was like American or Canadian.
There were times where he actually did a really good job, like when he was in the van talking to himself.
Yeah,
like he was doing well. But I think he was the guy with the beard and some of his.
He was Swedish.
Some of his thugs. It just sounded too forced to the point where
it was,
words
and
exaggerated.
they weren't even trying to do British. They were trying to do like Cockney.
Yeah,
and it had been like they'd only seen Danny Dyer films or something.
Literally, that's the thing. But it worked in like when Wigan was in the van, he was like, "I bet he just said Jesus Christ." He had 20 quid. That sounded
that was such a funny point as well.
But he didn't even say 20 quid. He had to cut himself off because he realised he was on his own. But it's when they were being more serious. Like, right, boss, we got to do this now. You know, it's like they couldn't. They were purposely like, right then, boss, we've got to do this. Like, do you know what I mean? It wasn't...
Yeah, they couldn't keep
that
it
wasn't
natural.
a line from the film, by the way. That was just me improvising.
Bro, I'm guaranteeing that was a line from the film.
That probably was. Like, right, boss, let's go.
Yeah. And yeah, I just think some of the action sequences as well, lackluster for an action film. Like, don't get me wrong, not all of them. A lot of them were good. But, like, the scene we're on about now, where before he meets Wigan, Bloodshot... is hunting down his next target and stuff, and he mows through these guys, right? He mows through the bodyguards and stuff, and he just goes through them because bullets don't affect him. But like, do something cool with it, right? He just steps forward, grabs a gun, shoots a guy, throws the gun on the ground. Steps forward, grabs a gun, shoots a guy.
But that's what happened in every fight scene as well. It was a case of, I think the only time they did something different was when he pulled like the cap of a grenade and then held it in front of. Oh no, it was some guy who had like grenades on his vest or something. And he set them off and then held the guy against a window.
Yeah,
against the
that
car
was
window.
super
That's
cool.
the only time.
I thought we were going to be in for like a little bit of a good film after I saw that. I was like, that was creative.
And it came right before. Oh no, it either came before or after. I'm not sure, but it was that shot where he gets shot, and like his face kind of just explodes off, but then it comes back as he's shooting the guy.
Yeah, I think all in all, this film has redeeming qualities. Like Wigan was charming. There's a point to this film which was damn. Yeah. Wigan was charming. The CG grenades scene at the end of the film where they actually used the budget and Bloodshot looked like Bloodshot. That was amazing.
Didn't last long enough.
It lasted 2 seconds, and that's where they blew the whole budget. But there was a lot of things in this film that you could have said, well, that was a redeeming quality. But if you have to sit through the rest of it to get to those points, is it redeeming?
Well, it's worth noting again that when earlier I said that it was just over 2 minutes that we see Bloodshot, it's just over 2 minutes that he was Bloodshot. Yeah. Most of them had cut away to Katie and Wigan for them talking or to get their reactions. So realistically, I think we see him in his full grey form for like less than a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think... And apparently that was because he was at low power. Because they are his blood. But that's not how it works in the comics.
That shouldn't be. Yeah. That should be. He should look less like Bloodshot.
Yeah.
He should look more regular when he was at low power. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. But is there anything glaringly bad or glaringly good that you need to say about this film?
There's one thing I'd like to mention, and I think it might just because I didn't either pick up on it or didn't understand it. But
right.
Obviously, it was a simulation that he got shot in the head and died whilst trying to save his wife. Yeah?
Yeah.
So if that was all a simulation, how is he actually Bloodshot? How is he actually this thing?
Oh, how did he actually die?
Yeah, how did he actually get to this stage in his life without the CG? Because I'm not sure. If it was mentioned,
been like
then I just
4
missed
years
it.
or 5 years or something.
It was 5 years since he last seen his wife. That's what they said, and she's got a kid.
Yeah,
she's got 2.
Also, how has there never been a point where he woke up, had his new target, and the first thing he did was check who his wife was?
God knows.
Because obviously, he thinks she's dead, right? But is he not is he not looking her up for memorial or like her funeral?
Does he know?
Yeah.
Other than when the music plays and he gets like the flashbacks. One thing that I thought was, it was very small, but it was like, it might have kind of been kind of lazy writing, but I think it kind of worked, was when, you know how like you got the stereotypical, oh, I'm speaking to you from the command center and you've got like a earpiece in, so you know you can hear me.
Yeah. He
just like, Guy Pearce's character just started talking and he was like, how can you hear me? He's like, bro, it's in your brain. Like, we programmed you.
Yeah. No, I think that worked quite well, because it was like, he's got loads of robots inside him, so yeah, of course they can vibrate or whatever, and his eardrums can pick up on that frequency.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that makes like some sort of sense. Like very little sense, right? But you can get away with that. Yeah,
like that's why I didn't know whether to call it lazy writing, because like I like the idea better than he has a earpiece in, but you guys just couldn't hear it. Or coincidentally, in his car, it's chipped. Or they bugged him. They put a bug on his shoulder when he was do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But also, they would have had to do that for the plot, because they put him under. and they wake him back up and they go through the script again. That was the bit I liked. The fact that it was a script. And they'd done it more than once.
That they have to, you see them, going through it and being like, right, remember, we're going to do this again, we're going to do this again. And you see her pick up that, coin again.
Yeah.
That badge that she showed him.
Yeah.
After she had been for a swim,
Oh, yeah, after she'd been for a swim.
Yeah, why did he just start punching the pillar? That's supporting the building.
Yeah.
Even if you think you got mad powers, still common sense. Don't start destroying the thing that's supporting the building you were in.
Yeah, I didn't get that stuff either. Also, I didn't like the flip of one of the characters. You know the guy that had the opticals, right?
Yeah.
He seemed like he was pretty chill, even after they had to hunt him down and say, look, he's rogue, but we need to get him back to the shop so he can be thing. But he says he's one of us, right? And he genuinely thinks that he's one of those scarred soldiers like they said they were. But then all of a sudden he doesn't care about any of that anymore. You know what I mean? And I get that they were being fake at the very start. But when Bloodshot's not around and he says to the other guy, he's one of us. And then he just doesn't care about that anymore. That sort of didn't make sense to me.
Something that didn't make sense to me is that he could stop Katie from breathing, yeah?
Oh, the guy with the arm.
Because she breathed through that thing on the chest, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
But then there's that scene where he stops her breathing so she can't escape. But then she's like, do you really think you can trick me into this? And then throws down the smoke grenade. Well, basically it's access denied or something.
Yeah.
That comes up on his arm. But it was not explained how she did that. Why can't she just do that all the time?
What, the access denied?
Yeah.
I will say Wigan did it.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah, because he got into the servers.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
I apologise. That makes a lot more sense. That confused me, see, because I was like, if she can just do that, why not?
Yeah, why not do that all the time? Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure Wigan did that. I will say, so we've got to give it a rating system to these what we watches. I think we give 2 rating systems. Will we watch again or will we watch further? Which is, obviously, if we watch a show, will we watch further? And then if it's a movie, will we ever watch it again? And then second of all, after that, we say how enjoyable it was on a scale from 1 to 5. Because it's about enjoyment factor, right?
Yeah.
I'd say, will I ever watch it again? Absolutely not. I don't want to put myself through that, and I don't think I need to go through that again.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I'm definitely not by choice.
No, yeah.
If it was on, maybe, but no, I wouldn't watch again.
No, I don't think I will watch again, not unless there are dire circumstances. There are good qualities to this film, but it is not worth watching the hour of other bad stuff. Right? It's an hour and 49 minutes or something long, right? And there's about, I'd say 10 minutes of good stuff.
I'd say there was about 10 minutes of good stuff, half an hour of nothing wrong with this, and then the rest then was, the other hour was just not knowing where the film was going to go, and just the film just not understanding itself.
Yeah. I will say that. Enjoyability, I'll give it a 2 out of 5.
I was going to give it a 2 out of 5.
Yeah, I would definitely say I enjoyed the plot up until I didn't enjoy the plot anymore. And then I enjoyed the concept all the way through.
Yeah, I think there was definitely a clash between the concept and the execution of the because the ideas, the fact that the characters were saying certain things and the acknowledgement of how these soldiers are looking at how they are, that was great. But then it was okay, you said that this guy was, he's got enhanced legs now, and you see him running on a treadmill at the same speed that a regular guy could, but then suddenly he is the Flash.
Yeah. Do
you know what I mean? They didn't know the difference, but they couldn't tell the difference between an idea and let's make this plausible.
I think as well, I'm giving it a 2 because I think Vin Diesel did some good acting in this. And I've not seen him act well for a while. Like, he did some stuff in this that was, his real voice came through, right? Because he puts on the Hollywood voice. And like when he was choking up, when he was choking up and breaking in his voice, his real voice came through for moments and stuff.
You say that though, there was a scene at the end, and it was a scene I mentioned earlier where kind of the world built around him.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, you can clearly tell when it switched from green screen to live out. Oh my god, it was so evident.
Yeah.
But he sounds really high pitched.
Mm-hmm.
Like he sounded really high pitched, and it was strange. But okay.
No, yeah, I completely agree. But that's his real voice, right? He's high pitched.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's good enough. So for this week, that was what we watched. It was Bloodshot. We both gave a 2 out of 5 on the enjoyability scale, and I don't think we'll be coming back for a rewatch. But it was a film that we watched, and we hope that you also enjoyed it even a lot more than we did watching it. So next week we will have something new. So next week's what we watch will be Onward. Yeah, I think Onward will be a good pick. What do you think, Nate?
I've been wanting to see Onward for a long time, and Disney Plus US has it. We don't have it in the UK yet, which is annoying. But that's something I'm very intrigued for. So
yeah. So
I'd love to watch Onward.
I think next week we'll have watched Onward. So everyone who can watch Onward, please do watch along for next week's review. If you can't watch Onward at the moment, think to yourself, maybe invest in a VPN or see if it's available anywhere else. But for everyone who's going to watch that with us next week, please tune in next week. We will be going through that the same way we did Bloodshot, and hopefully it is a much, much better film. So, did you have anything to say in passing? We had some comments from the last podcast, some really great feedback, and everyone was very lovely in the comments, so we'd like to keep that up, positive attitudes. Was there anything you wanted to say before we wrap everything up?
I just hope everyone enjoyed this episode specifically. I feel like I'm not going to say we talked a lot more, because we talked in the last one, evidently. But I feel like we definitely kind of, especially because we had the watch of the week, we definitely give our opinions on more specific, let's say, memes. Just for example, we give our views on something that's actually relevant as opposed to things that are happening in the future. We actually talked about things that are done.
Yeah, exactly. I think there'll be some more segments putting in soon. I think along with what we watch, maybe we'll do a what we read. But that's dependent on what everyone wants to see. So we'll maybe put up a poll around the film forums and stuff like that, and see. And maybe I can introduce Nathan to some comic books or some anime or some stuff that he's never watched before.
Yeah, I'm really interested to get into especially some anime, because I've never been a huge fan, just out of not knowing what's a good anime to watch or where to start on that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's never been something I've crossed off the list. So
well, we're gonna have to find out whether you're a dub or a sub. So tune in next week, everyone, and we'll find out whether that's going to be that. Nathan, please wrap us up.
So thank you guys so much for listening this week. We hope you all enjoyed. If you have any suggestions of things you'd like us to talk about, or even anything you'd like us to watch, please do leave in the comments down below. But we have been live from the Batcave. It is still freezing.
Yeah.
Heaters haven't been installed, and I'm starting to feel the price for that. But that's about it for this week. So we'll be back next week, hopefully the same time. So hopefully we'll see you guys soon. Thank you for listening.